Have you ever imagined a woman who could sit down with a king from one land, a general from another, and a priest from a third, and speak to every single one of them in their own language? No helper standing beside her. No one whispering the right words into her ear. Just her own voice, moving easily from one language to the next. She ruled one of the greatest kingdoms the world has ever known. And by the time she was in her 20s, kings feared her, generals respected her, and the whole world was already talking about her name. Not just because of her power. Because of her mind. This is the story of the last Pharaoh of Egypt. Picture the city of Alexandria at night. The sea is beating softly against the palace walls, again and again, like a slow heartbeat. Inside one of the rooms, a young woman sits alone on the floor. Around her, sheets of paper called scrolls are spread out everywhere. Some are written in Greek. Some in Egyptian symbols. Some in Hebrew. Some in Latin. She is reading all of them, one after another, without stopping. Tomorrow morning, she will meet a powerful Roman general. This one meeting could decide if her country survives, or if it falls into someone else's hands forever. Her fingers move quickly across the scrolls. A single candle flickers beside her, throwing small shadows on the wall. Somewhere down the long stone hallway, she hears the footsteps of the palace guards, slow and steady. Her hands are shaking, just a little. Who is this woman? The one who can speak to kings in their own words, before she has even said a single sentence to them? Her name was Cleopatra VII. She was the last pharaoh, the last true ruler, of ancient Egypt. This story takes place around 2,000 years ago, in a time when a new power called Rome was rising fast, and Egypt stood in its shadow, trying to survive. Cleopatra came from a family called the Ptolemies. A dynasty simply means a family that holds on to power for many, many years, passing the throne down from parents to their children. Here is something that most people do not know. For almost 300 years, every single ruler in Cleopatra's family spoke Greek. Not one of them ever bothered to learn the Egyptian language, even though they were ruling Egyptian people. Not one. Cleopatra broke that pattern. She sat down and learned Egyptian, the language of her own people. And she did not stop there. She went on to learn Latin, the language of Rome. She learned Hebrew. She learned the languages of nearby kingdoms like Syria and Ethiopia. By the time she was grown, historians believe she could speak close to 9 different languages. 9. One woman, carrying 9 different worlds inside her mind. Cleopatra became the ruler of Egypt when she was only 18 years old, sharing the throne with her younger brother, as was the custom back then. But her palace was not a peaceful place to grow up in. It was full of secrets, whispered plans, and family members who saw each other not as brothers and sisters, but as rivals fighting for the same crown. Her own brother, guided by his advisors, turned against her. They forced her out of the palace and out of power completely. She was sent into exile. Exile means being forced to leave your own home, your own city, your own country, often with almost nothing. Try to imagine that feeling. One day you are a queen, living inside golden palace walls. The next day, you are a stranger, standing outside the very kingdom you were born to rule. But Cleopatra did not stay down for long. She was clever, and she was brave. According to old stories passed down through history, she found a way to sneak back into her own palace without her enemies knowing, hidden away so no guard would recognize her, just so she could reach one man. Julius Caesar. At that time, Caesar was one of the most powerful men alive, the leader of Rome's armies. Somehow, Cleopatra managed to win his trust and his support. With Caesar standing behind her, she returned to Egypt and took back her throne. For a while, it seemed like peace had finally come. But that peace did not last. Julius Caesar was murdered by his own political enemies back in Rome, and suddenly the whole Roman world fell into chaos. Cleopatra found herself alone again, trying to protect her small, wealthy kingdom while powerful men fought each other for control of the largest empire on earth. This time, Cleopatra formed a new alliance, with a Roman general named Mark Antony. Their relationship was both political and deeply personal, a real partnership built on trust and shared power. Together, they seemed strong. But far across the sea, another Roman leader was watching them closely. His name was Octavian, and he did not see Cleopatra and Antony as partners trying to keep peace. He saw them as enemies who needed to be destroyed. Slowly, the tension between them grew. Diplomacy, which simply means solving problems between countries through conversation instead of fighting, was running out of time. Letters were no longer enough. Promises were no longer enough. War was coming, and there was nothing left that words alone could fix. In the year 31 before Christ, everything came to a breaking point at a place called Actium, in a huge naval battle fought on the open sea. Picture hundreds of wooden ships, sails burning, thick black smoke rising into the sky, shouting and chaos everywhere you look. Cleopatra and Antony's forces fought bravely against Octavian's navy, but in the end, they lost. In the confusion and panic of retreat, Mark Antony believed, wrongly, that Cleopatra had already died. Heartbroken and desperate, he took his own life before anyone could tell him the truth. It is said that in her final moments together with him, Cleopatra spoke of their love and their long struggle ending together, in almost the very same breath. We cannot know her exact words today, but her grief in that moment has echoed through history for over 2,000 years. Even though her story ends in tragedy, we should never forget everything Cleopatra managed to achieve while she was alive. She ruled Egypt for 21 years, longer than almost any other ruler in her entire family's long history. She was the very first member of her dynasty to speak the language of her own people, after nearly 300 years of rulers who never even tried. She sat across the table from two of the most powerful men Rome ever produced, and she held her own, not simply because of her beauty, as old stories often claim, but because of her sharp intelligence and her incredible command of language after language. Even today, more than 2,000 years after her death, people all over the world still speak her name. She remains a powerful symbol of intelligence, strength, and the rare ability to connect with almost anyone, in almost any tongue. After losing Antony, Cleopatra understood exactly what was coming next. Octavian planned to capture her and drag her through the streets of Rome in chains, as a trophy, a final humiliation to celebrate his victory. Cleopatra refused to let that happen to her. In the year 30 before Christ, she chose to end her own life rather than live as someone else's prisoner. According to old tradition, she did this using the bite of a poisonous snake, though historians today still argue about exactly how it happened. What we do know for certain is this. A woman who once spoke confidently to the entire known world, in 9 different languages, died completely alone, inside the very palace where her story had first begun. Cleopatra did not wake up one morning already speaking 9 languages. She learned them slowly, one single word at a time, one conversation at a time, one mistake at a time, just like you are doing right now while you listen to this story. Every new English word you learn, every sentence you finally understand after struggling with it, that is your own quiet power growing stronger, little by little, day by day. You do not need to be perfect today. You do not need to sound perfect tomorrow either. You only need to keep going, the same way Cleopatra kept learning, kept adapting, kept trying, no matter how difficult her world became around her. Just like her, your voice is becoming a little stronger, a little clearer, every single day that you choose to keep learning. Keep listening, keep learning, keep going. This is PastEcho.